Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a hard look at democracy, kind of like a real-world report card. We're going to get past all the big promises and really dig into its performance. What does this whole system of government actually deliver for people like you and me? You know, we hear it all the time. Democracy is the best system of government out there. But is it really? Is that claim actually backed up by results? Let's peel back all those layers of political theory and look at what it actually means on the ground for the people living in these countries. Okay, so before we can start handing out grades, we need to know what we're grading it on, right? What are the big promises of democracy? What does it actually claim it's going to do for us? So at its core, democracy makes a handful of really key promises. It's about treating everyone as equals, upholding individual dignity, making better decisions because we actually talk about them. It's also supposed to give us a way to solve our conflicts without violence. And maybe the biggest one of all, the ability to admit when we've messed up and fix our own mistakes. These are the benchmarks we're going to use today. Okay, time for our first reality check. And it's a big one. You've probably heard this complaint a million times. Democracies are just so slow and inefficient. Is there any truth to that? Well, let's dig in. And right here you can see the fundamental trade-off plain as day. A democracy moves slow, right? But that's because it's built on talking things out, on negotiation. On the flip side, a dictatorship can be lightning fast, but that speed comes at a price. It comes from completely ignoring what the people think and just making decisions by decree. And this brings us to a really crucial point. That slowness, it's not a bug. It's actually a feature of the system. The whole reason for that long, sometimes frustrating process is to come up with policies that people can actually get behind, which makes them stick around and, actually work in the long run. But let's be real, Veer. The source material doesn't try to sugarcoat this. It straight up admits that, democratic governments can be slow, they can be inefficient, and sometimes they're not very responsive. Or even clean. It's definitely not a flawless system. All right, let's switch gears and talk about something everyone cares about, money. The big question is, do democracies actually make their countries richer? I mean, it seems logical, right? You'd think that better, more accountable government would lead to a stronger economy. But is that actually true? Is that what the evidence shows? Let's take a look at the numbers. Okay, this one might actually surprise you. If you look at the data from 1950 all the way to 2000, it turns out that, on average, dictatorial regimes had a slightly higher rate of economic growth. Yeah, that definitely challenges a really common assumption, doesn't it? So what does that tell us? Well, it tells us you can't just draw a straight line from democracy to economic success. A country's prosperity is, it's a really complex recipe. It depends on so many other things, like the size of the population, global cooperation, what natural resources they have. The list goes on. And what's more, even when a democracy does create a lot of wealth, there's absolutely no guarantee that wealth gets shared fairly. In fact, you can find some of the most extreme economic inequality in the world inside democratic countries. This table gives us a pretty stark example. You take a democracy like South Africa, and the top 20% of people hold a massive chunk of the national income. But then you look at a country like Hungary, and you see a larger share going to the bottom 20%. It just goes to show democracy by itself is no silver bullet when it comes to fixing economic inequality. So, okay, if democracy isn't always the fastest, and it's not a guaranteed ticket to riches, then where does its real strength lie? Well, it's in the stuff that you can't really measure on a spreadsheet or plot on a graph. And this is the bedrock right here, accountability. It's maybe the single most important outcome of a democracy. It just means the government has to answer to its citizens, and if it fails them, the people have the power to change it. And of course, you can't really have accountability without transparency. The right for any citizen to pull back the curtain and see how decisions are being made, that's one of the most powerful checks on government power there is. So you put those two together, accountability and transparency, and what do you get? You get legitimacy. A democratic government can be slow, it can be inefficient, sure, but its power is seen as legitimate because it comes directly from the people. And this really gets to the heart of it all. Legitimacy isn't something that's seized by force or handed down from on high. It's built from the ground up by people participating. And that That's a kind of strength that no other system of government can even come close to replicating. And really, that's the bottom line. When you look past the economic charts and the efficiency reports, this is where democracy really truly shines. More than any other system out there, it is designed to promote the dignity and the freedom of every single person. So, we've looked at democracy's performance, we've talked about the money, we've touched on its core values. So what's the final verdict on this report card? And maybe more importantly, what does it all mean for us? This is such a critical point to understand. Democracy isn't some magic wand that you wave and poof, all the country's problems are solved. It's much better to think of it as a framework, or maybe a set of tools. But that framework, those tools, they can't do anything on their own. It's a system that 100% depends on people getting involved for it to even work. The tools are right there, but it's up to us, the citizens, to actually pick them up and build something better with them. And that's really the final thought to leave you with. Democracy gives us the opportunity. It gives us the platform and the right to be heard. It basically hands every single one of us a microphone. The only question left is, what are we going to say?